Hello world, I'm Kieran Gunter, and today I'm going to be doing the first of my 3 Getting into Jazz Guitar video tutorials. In the next few minutes, I'm going to be giving you an intro into how you can start really becoming familiar with the guitar fingerboard and therefore play jazz with much more fluency and confidence. The guitar fingerboard can often feel illogical and fiendishly complicated to understand. Tab can easily get around this problem by showing where your fingers need to go on the neck. It does have a number of drawbacks though. A big one that is going to limit your growth as a jazz guitarist is that it stops you considering notes by their names instead of a string fret combination. How many of you would immediately think of 8th fret on the G string as an E flat or D sharp instead of just 8th fret 3rd string? Jazz uses a richer harmonic language than genres like blues or rock. And so to understand how to improvise through jazz harmony and to voice the chords, you will need to use note names instead. This means uninstalling the tab safety net you may have set up. Soon, you're going to start visualizing the guitar fingerboard in a very different way to how you might once have. So, going cold turkey straight away, for this video, any visual display of notation on the screen I'm going to do without tab. If you're worried at this point that I might also do a lecture on why you need to be an excellent sight reader first before you can play jazz, remove those fears. Jazz is an oral tradition and good reading skills definitely come second to good listening skills. However, developing a competency in basic notation reading is something I would highly recommend building into your practice routine if you currently struggle with it. By abandoning tab and using only note names, this often brings up a question for guitarists. How am I possibly going to remember every single name? Here's my advice. Break the fingerboard into 5 fret blocks. The range between the lowest and highest notes in a block this size is a major third plus 2 octaves. So, if we took frets 1 to 5 as our first block, that means it goes from an F up to an A. Within that, I can pick any of the 12 potential different starting notes within an octave: F, G flat, G, A flat, A, B flat, B, C, D flat, D, E flat, and E, and do at least a 1 octave scale. And with all bar 1, E, I can do an octave and a half. For 5 out of the 12, I can stretch to 2 octaves, F, G flat, G, A flat, and A, and still not go out of my fixed 5 fret parameter. So, there's a lot of notes there between 1 and 5. To get familiar with the name of every note in this block in only a few weeks, you will need to be methodical about how you practice. So, here are a few things you could do and that have worked amazingly well for me. But before I dive in, let me just clarify that all of the following information will take a lot of hours to fully implement. You do not need to have mastered this before you can start to play jazz. Just make it a significant part of the things you are practicing when you are making your first steps. Firstly, practice scales and arpeggios within your 5 fret block. But don't just do a 1 octave scale. Go up to the highest available scale tone within the block. So, still within frets 1 to 5, let's say I choose G major. Starting on the lowest G, I can go all the way up to my high A. And then descending, I would need to go down to my low F sharp. Before finally finishing back where I began. If you don't know the notes in major scales, I suggest you make sure you learn them first before doing this. You could easily find information on this with a quick Google, or failing that, get in contact with me and I can provide you with resources. If you know what the notes are, but don't know how to find them in frets 1 to 5 without using tab, I would suggest writing it out in tab first with the names of each note above its corresponding tab digit to get you going, and then get rid of the tab as soon as possible. If you want to move from being thorough into being really thorough, start utilizing your voice. Say the names of the notes aloud as you play them. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A. Even better, if you can pitch the right note as you say it, it will get the information hardwired into your brain much faster than merely thinking it, or not thinking it at all. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A. It will be slow going at first, but it will quickly begin to feel easier. If you practice the scales in the order of the circle of fifths, you're only changing one note per new scale, and so lots of pre-learned information is carried over. I would recommend going in an anti-clockwise direction. Once you can comfortably do this, introduce some simple variations. Try, for example, major 7th arpeggios instead, while still sticking to all the other fretboard parameter rules. G, B, D, F sharp, G, B, D, F sharp, G. Try doing likewise with the Mixolydian mode. All you have to do is simply flatten the 7th note of the major scale with the same starting note. Or, alternatively, you could do the Dorian mode. You flatten the 3rd and the 7th, both very commonly utilised modes in jazz. A second thing you can do is play simple tunes. If musicians were like soccer players, practicing scales is doing something akin to doing drills on the training ground, whilst practicing tunes is like having a training match. Ultimately, we play an instrument to play tunes, and so it's important we make that a part of our practice lives as well. So, maybe take a melody you already know and see if you can play it all within your chosen 5-fret block. It may not be completely possible, but stick within it as much as you can. If you're struggling to think of a suitable level of melody to do this task, why not start with a really simple one, like a nursery rhyme, folk melody, or hymn. There's no need to be embarrassed if you have to start with Twinkle Twinkle. This is all productive means to a positive end. Do a block at a time. In the space of 8 to 10 weeks, you could do frets 1 to 5, 5 to 9, and 9 to 13. Realistically, those areas are where you're going to be spending most of your time. And what will you be able to do after practicing this? Well, an obvious one for me is how this will help your jazz improvisation. If you really understand the fingerboard inside out and back to front, you will be able to improvise across all of it and not still be trapped into certain shapes that you might be dependent on when you play rock and blues. Think of it as greater familiarity with your guitar equals more freedom in your ability to improvise, which equals better improvising in general. So give it a go and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Remember, if you've enjoyed this little taster video and would like to learn more about how to play jazz guitar, you can now very easily get Skype lessons with me. Doing so will offer you expert advice, flexible lesson scheduling, and competitive fees. Simply follow the link below to the contact page on my website and let me know how I can help you. In the meantime, keep your eyes peeled on my Facebook page, Kieran Gunter Music, and my Instagram account for my second Getting into Jazz Guitar video tutorial, which will be coming very soon. Have fun practicing and have a great day.